Guys, we got Christian here. How's it going, Christian?
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, totally. So, tell everyone kind of what you do, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a young entrepreneur. That statement gets less and less true every year, right? I was one of those guys that started my business at 19, and it started to take off around 21, and we were making really good money, and more importantly than that, like, I was learning a lot, and I felt really really good. And that's at 21, and you're 22, and you're still young, and 24, you're still young, and now I'm 27, and you're just a regular person now. So you're no longer special. So that's been new. But anyway, I started in retail, specifically vintage watch retail. It sounds kind of esoteric, but it's really not. Rolex, Omega, some of the world's most coveted brands. And then 2 years ago, so 6 years into the business, I said, okay, I'm a little bit dissatisfied just retailing vintage watches. Again, very successful, like good business, but I felt, that it wasn't. I felt like if you've got it all figured out at 21, that's pretty kind of sad. Like you probably don't have it all figured out. So I said, okay, I need to push myself. What's next? What's the next mountain? And I started to leverage the relationships that I had built in the watch industry with large corporations like Omega and Longines, these $100 million, billion-dollar companies. And I leveraged those relationships as well as some storytelling ability that I had built up in my retail practice, and said, okay, I'm going to build a creative agency. and I did that. I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and the creative agency has become more successful than the watch business. It's been like the most rewarding journey. It's fucking awesome. Like, that's the best way to put it.
That's great. And it's TMF, right? Is that
So the watch company is called Theo and Harris, and the
right?
creative agency is LMF.
Oh, LMF. Yeah, TMF. I don't know where I got that.
Yeah,
So
it's all right. We'll
LMF,
call you Theo.
what does LMF stand for?
Nothing. And neither did Theo and Harris. Like it just, I was so focused on building business that I was like, okay, what sounds right? That sounds a little bit like a Hallmark, company. It sounds decisive, but
Yeah.
but no, there's
Okay.
clients always, assign meeting. They're like, listen, motherfuckers. I'm like, okay, that's kind of good.
There you
That's good.
go. Yeah, yeah. So I knew that about Theo and Harris because I
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to be brutally honest. You're the first guest that I've had that's on YouTube that I watch all the time.
That's
So
awesome. Thank you.
yeah, totally. And I knew the Theo and Harris, but LMF, I didn't know that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So, and you're a full service agency. So you do everything.
Yeah, I mean, everyone that's full service obviously has specialty, right? Ours is very clearly in brand positioning and in video, right? Creating commercials, whether they're 30-second commercials that are broadcast on NBC, of which we've done more than I ever thought I would, or we're producing. A lot of what we'll do is digital ads for fundraising rounds. So when a company is looking to raise more money, and they're looking to really get their presentation just fucking perfect, they'll come to us, and we create their entire storytelling packet, right? We from everything from the financials to the marketing plan, we do it through our lens, right? With just this beautiful creative attention, and it's great. So yeah, it's storytelling.
Yeah, cool. So what's your main you say every full service agency is really good at one thing, but what's your thing that you're really good at? Is it the design? Is that the production? What is that?
No, me. I mean, me as an individual. I mean, I hate to use the word because everyone uses it, but it's brand position and storytelling. Like so here's the funny thing about creative agencies, so far as I see it, right? So you've got big corporations, right, that just do legitimately hundreds of millions of dollars in creative services, and it's unbelievable. A lot of those agencies, they're large and they are the standard of care, right? So everyone uses them, but they're not. A lot of them aren't really that good at what they do. You get to rest on your laurels. and they're also obviously very expensive. Then you've got this whole new wave of creatives, right? These super talented people that want to put up shingle. But those people really don't understand, well, two things. One, that they're freelancers unless they have a full, creative capability. But two, that things like it can't just be beautiful. It needs to be functional, right? And they don't really get that. A lot of the creatives that I meet, and I guess some of them would consider themselves competitors, I suppose, or whatever. They just know beauty, and they know that that's a tactic. They think it's a solution, but it's not. Right? Beauty is one of the tools that we can use to move a viewer to do something, whether that's invest more money or buy a retail product or watch a particular sporting event. Sure, but it's not everything, right? It's a more complex equation than that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think of direct response marketing is you got to have the reason for the design, and the design
Right.
helps the reason, but you don't ever do the design to, yeah.
Exactly. And these guys are like incredibly talented, like way more talented than I am as an individual, right? They're beautiful creatives, but they just don't understand that it has to work. That
Yeah.
there's a function to this. They don't get
Right.
it. So the
Right.
client ends up shelling out a ton of money for a very pretty ornament,
Yeah.
which is not what they needed,
Right.
it's not what they needed,
Right.
you know?
Huh. That's an interesting place to be in, though. So how do you communicate with those clients in the way that stresses that importance?
Yeah. So first of all, we had a really interesting road in build of business development because I had spent the last 6 years of my life retailing vintage watches, retailing Rolexes, retailing Breguets, expensive stuff. So disproportionately the demographics of people that are watching content on expensive watches, those folks are again disproportionately successful because if they weren't successful, the likelihood of them watching watch content is kind of low, right? It's expensive. So I already had a large network of folks that were fans and fans that we turned into friends, or fans that turned into clients and then friends. So when we started doing creative work for Omega and Longines and all, literally, I mean, all these brands, Bulova and all these brands and watches, they said, are you ever gonna go outside of watches? And my answer was not yeah, for sure. It was, well, actually, on the down low, we actually do have a creative firm. Not true at all. That was not what we had. And I literally propped up a creative firm kind of overnight, and put my time and my money to work. So I
Yeah.
invented a company literally because of that very casual conversational demand.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So let's just get into it. So the whole thing that I'm trying to shift this podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it, into is I want to get certain people on to be able to talk about what they're really good at and
Yeah.
highlight that. And so you had said over DMs that you kind of
Yeah.
wanted to talk about training the demeanor of entrepreneurs. So why did you have that in mind? And like what gives you the authority to talk about that in
Yeah.
particular, those two things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, that my the skill that I've got at work is again, storytelling. But if we talk about that, that's going to be, I guess, interesting for some and useful for smaller some. But I think that the only reason that I'm in this position is because of that. Is because of this idea of demeanor and behavior that I think accelerated me from being a very, very young, what should have been immature entrepreneur into, being looked at as not only an equal, but sometimes even better than that by people far more important than I am. My contacts were men that are far wealthier and far more important than I am and will ever be. And yet, I think through, not I think I know through presentation, through a couple of guiding principles, I was able to navigate over 5 or 6 years uh, these relationships, cultivate them, and extract so much value out of these people. People say all the time, "Well, I don't really have a network. I don't really know anyone." And I say, "Well, one person can legitimately, make you millions of dollars, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the client." but what can you learn from these people? Who can you be introduced to from these people? I understand that maybe more than anything. Not having a super vast network. I don't have that many friends, right, in the grand scheme. But all of my friends, I look at them as, it sounds callous, but I mean it I don't mean it in a usury way at all. But they are strategic. I mean, there is some strategic utility to almost all of my contacts, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because and we'll get into it. It's one of those guiding principles. Like, I always deliver more than I ask for. Always. So again, you're jumping into something a little bit further down the road, but I'm telling you, man, like, that was huge. Being 19 and behaving like not only like I wasn't 19, but like a respectable 50-year-old. Like, that was it. And it almost created
Sure.
an illusion for guys that that never should have been at dinner for me. Like, it was kind of weird that we were having dinner as often as we were, and sometimes, like, now that we've become friends, like, their wives would say, "What the fuck are you doing out with this kid? That's weird. It's weird. You're this corporate executive, very successful. Why are you meeting up with this 19-year-old again? What are you doing? Why is he coming over for dinner? And that was all too common, in my life.
Yeah. So I kind of want to let you have the floor to talk about that a little bit more. Why does it, why is that important, and what goes into that what do you do in particular? Like, you were going into 19 years old, but like now as you're
Yeah.
27, you're like, you're not young anymore, whatever. You're still under
Yeah.
30, but like,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So can you go into that a little bit? Just have the floor, talk about how that goes down.
I mean, it's certainly still very useful, right? Like, I mean, I give some of this advice to my dad. So my dad's a 56-year-old, corporate executive, and even that advice it's useful forever, right? Keeping in mind my dad is more successful and smarter than I am, but not to say that I have nothing to offer him. I try to do my best to help, any way I can, and it starts with understanding the reality of what you have to offer, right? As a young entrepreneur, you know, you really have nothing, right? You've got no money to offer this person, and even if you had money, they wouldn't want it. That'd be weird. You have no network to offer them, and even if you did, they probably wouldn't take it because they wouldn't take your lead very seriously, right? You've got nothing. There is almost no reason why an extremely successful individual would want to mentor you, right? It's a weird, it's a weird thing. The only thing you do have is the ability to listen and to allow them to feel, you know, after a couple of cocktails, like they're the kind of king of the world, right? And that's not a matter of it's not a matter of kissing their ass, because that I don't do that either, or I never did. It was a matter of listening. When I speak to a lot of young entrepreneurs, they I mean, I'm talking a lot now because it's a podcast, but they don't shut the fuck up. They just don't know when to shut the fuck up. And when I take calls with young entrepreneurs, or at whatever age, that's one of the first things I say. Is you're really not understanding the dynamic of the conversation here, right? The whole point is, how do I keep this person who I have more to gain from than they have to gain from me, involved in enough dialogue that I can extract right information from them. Now, that's largely it's wisdom, right? Of course, it's network down the line, but my mentors, and they would have said we were just friends, but they were mentors. Um, they gave me more advice and more counsel. I'm not just talking about abstract over dinner. I'm talking about, if I was in the middle of a serious, business predicament, I could call these people as friends, you know? So again, it starts off with listening and allowing them to feel heard, right? Maybe this is an opportunity for them to vent. Maybe it's an opportunity for them, from their castle at 55 to finally feel like the teacher, right? And the teacher doesn't want to be spoken over. It just does not, it doesn't jive, so after you can establish that, I think the next thing goes into, when you do speak, establishing yourself as some level of an authority, right? Someone to be taken seriously, right? The words that are coming out of your mouth are well conceived. You are not just, you are not just an immature, young, naive person. Another thing that I think that people, tend to struggle with, right? But if you're speaking very little, and when you are speaking, it's it's powerful enough. You're beginning to build that mutual trust and respect, with someone that you again should really have no business, being at the table with. So those are the first two steps. and and
Sure.
and if you can understand that over a dinner or over, really it's social, right, taking advantage of social opportunities, you will come out of the situation, even as a 19-year-old or as a 22-year-old, as a 45-year-old, with with another individual that says, that guy was fucking smart. And maybe he can't even explain why. Maybe nothing of what you said was even that bright, but you were able to control yourself, let them speak. They felt good coming out of the conversation. And maybe you had a couple of fine to good points, right? But they're saying that's someone that guy knows what's going on. That guy's sharp, even if they can't be specific. It's a feeling, and again, here I am, again, 19 years old at these very expensive restaurants that I had no money, and listen, speaking to these guys who I had no business being with, and saying to myself, I don't know, I think that maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but like they kind of are looking at me more like an equal than they should be. What I mean? Not equal, but he's not talking to me like a kid. He's talking to me like an adult. And that was really just the beginning of understanding how to infiltrate, like, literally 2 decades above me, because that's where all the network is, right? The mid 30s executives, they don't have the network that these, guys in their mid 40s into 50s and 60s have, and those guys are in the stage of their life that is, they're not slowing down, but they're happy to call in a favor. They're happy to make a connection for you because they've already got their two houses. They've already got their car. Like, they've got some time now to help out someone that they look at as probably a friend, but subconsciously a student, you know? So that's the beginning.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So going off of that, how would people who are just starting out, and then eventually we'll get into like how you do it now, um, now that you've got the experience and you've you've got the Rolexes, you've got the, so when you're just starting out though, what does it look like to establish a connection with those types of people? Like the demeanor you have when you're at dinner is awesome, but how do you like initiate that? Is that, hey, I want to learn from you and ask you questions, or is it, do
Well,
you,
again, I was in a unique scenario because I had this mutual, bond over watches. Right? That's how I ended up at the table with these people in general.
mm,
Which even fundamentally, even that was weird. But whatever. But I think that advice, or would be transferable, right? Meeting over a mutual interest, I think is. I mean, that's certainly what I did. I think being the person that has a fairly good offer, right? Maybe it's and it's something, it could be something as simple as, I'm going to be in DC, or I'm going to be in Chicago. I would do this a lot. I would lie about my travel schedule to make the person feel like I wasn't chasing them down. So I would say, hey, listen, I'm going to be in Chicago, 3 times in December. Pick a date, and I'll make it work, right? Not, hey, are you free this, December 14th,
sure.
So something like that. I mean, really just planning so far ahead, and almost, again, making it kind of casual. I never asked anyone to be a mentor of mine. Never. Never did that. But making it as easy as possible to end up at that table. Making it as
Mm,
easy as possible for them to end up at that table. And if they're interested in wine, maybe that's a great medium, right? If they're interested in golf, any medium, and then once you've got, even if you're meeting at the range, very easy to transition that to the bar after. Very easy.
mm.
And I know it sounds silly, but I'm telling you, man, that's where, I mean, I built, I would say, the vast majority of my business was doing exactly that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think some people might call that fake it till you make it, but it doesn't really sound like it. It sounds like
No.
meeting them where they're at in a way that's putting yourself forward into a place that is with them, even though you might not feel like you're completely with them at all.
Oh
You're
yeah.
you're so much younger. Yeah.
100%. And I think another big thing with that is, the words you're saying don't necessarily line up with the way you're behaving, right? I would always be very honest about the difference between us. I would never pretend to be more successful than I was. Never. But my demeanor was on par with them and their peers. So even though, yeah, okay, yeah, on paper he knows that I'm not that successful. He just feels a very mutual, kind of like wise bond there. You know, that was it. It was never talking to a 19-year-old or talking to a 23-year-old.
Mm,
It was a very hard, intangible, kind of emotional, mutual respect.
mm,
Again, even though I had nothing to offer, right? I mean, nothing apart
that's
from
perfect.
listening.
Yeah,
Right? What the
right.
fuck am I going to tell these guys? Come on, I mean, these guys. I come from a very middle class area in New Jersey. My dad didn't really start to do well until I was in like the end of high school, right? So I did not grow up, knowing people that were worth 50 or $100 million. I no association, right? And then through watches, you meet those people, and you know, not not missing at the plate, taking that opportunity and forging a real relationship. It really made the difference, man.
Mm. Sounds like 19-year-old me should be listening to your advice because I was on the opposite spectrum where I was like, hey, I was like super humble. I was like, I would love to just ask you questions and I would just ask questions. I would never
Yeah,
contribute. And
yeah,
so that sounds like putting my best foot forward and actually contributing shows that, hey, this guy knows more. You'd say that,
yeah.
right?
I think again, you and I could ask the same questions over the course of a dinner, and I would never frame it as, "Can I ask you a few questions?"
Mm,
Okay, yeah, can I have 40? I would take a different approach, a much more peer-to-peer approach. And I would, if I'm gonna ask a question, I'm gonna tee it up with a lot of pauses, which is something I always did talk about, and they can feign intelligence, um, but don't fuck it up. Let me ask you something. And that seems well thought out. That seems like I mean it. I'm not frantic. I've considered this question, and I'm looking forward to your reply. And I hope that you take as much of a pause as I did, right? Because I want a real answer. These guys, and they're right for eating it up because it's not deception, right? I mean, it really is. I mean, yeah, I mean, on a level, sure, it's a little bit of manipulation, but it is with the best intent, of just being. It's like finishing school, right? I mean, that's literally it. Like my best advice for entrepreneurs is just like this finishing school approach. Like that's it. It's crazy.
yeah, that's good. So what would you say for someone in your shoes? You're 27. You've got some experience under your belt. What does that look like now that you are more on par with some of these people? Maybe not the 55-year-olds who
Oh
got a yacht,
yeah,
but like, what does it look like when you're not 19?
the biggest thing I do now, and this is where I'm at with LMF, is just okay. So I successfully am in your network. I and this backing a second. Back then, I had no ask. Not only did I not ask, I had nothing to ask for. I only sold watches, right? So in building out LMF, now there's an ask. Now there's a potential upside. Then I just knew that the network was valuable, and one day it would be valuable, right? Now that has come to fruition, right? One introduction, right? One introduction from one of my friends, one of my friends. I mean, could be, tremendous, right? It could be tremendous. So that was the second step, was not just building the network, but not wasting the ask, having something that was worthy of the favor, right? Now with a full service marketing agency, now the ask is valuable. It's not, hey, could you introduce, could you make sure to share my newest YouTube video with some of your friends? What the fuck is that going to do for me? Nothing, right? But yeah, we're doing some really exciting work with Hearst Corporation, and they're telling a story. By the way, do you have any contacts in like New York finance? And all of a sudden, we've got a real ask, because if he can deliver that, and maybe he can't, but if he can, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, right? So the next step at this age was putting together the structure to support the ask from my network, right? Because without that, what the fuck am I going to ask for? What was the point of the network? To have a large holiday gift list? It's expensive. It's not doing anything for me. So yeah.
Can you give another example of supporting the ask? Like, what's another example?
Again, I out on a limb. If you're a young entrepreneur, I could asking for money, not from an individual, but asking for an introduction, asking for it's hard to say. I'm thinking through fundraising. I don't really support it through retail. There's an implicit if you have a retail business and you are over gifting, or I recommend over gifting to your network, with the hope that, or with the strategy that, that would trickle into the ultimate kind of person you're looking to reach, which could be someone in finance, or someone that is looking to, or could in theory help you raise money. It's tough. I mean, it's so dependent on your network. It's so dependent on them. There are people that I wouldn't. Every person has a different potential ask, right? And I'm only looking for one thing. So it's tough for me to just kind of speculate as to someone else's network and to their product. But
Are you just saying put out goodwill and then try to get one thing?
But it's being very strategic, right? Because people aren't just going to do you a favor if you're not very pointed and very sharp, with that favor, right? So you want the highest likelihood that ask will convert, right? So if you don't have it, then don't ask it, right? Don't just give away free shit. I don't mean that. But okay, let's invent an imaginary circumstance in which your buddy who is an executive or is a mid-level manager at a department store or whatever it might be. Maybe the real connection that you're looking to get is not him, but is through his friend who works at Chase Manhattan, or who's an investment banker at what's it called, or BlackRock. It doesn't matter, right? What do I offer to that individual through my friend, right? How do I get us all socially kind of together, right? Again, it depends on your business, but there, your network is much larger than you realize. It's much larger, but it's also being aware of who the next door is too. And if you don't know your first degree network really well enough to know who's beyond them, then you have way more recon work to do. I pretend like I don't remember my friends' friends, but I know who my friends are friends with. I say, oh, isn't that, no, I know, I know who that is. And I'm not going to ask him for anything, but who knows in 6 months what I might need? Who knows?
Yeah.
So it's very hard to speculate, as to the circumstances, but the principle's true.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So you'd say expanding your network and getting favors from the people that are the branches in your network.
Yes, it's all about branches.
Right.
It's very rare that my first degree connection can actually do something for me. What are the odds of that? Right. But through his network, he can get something done for me.
Yeah.
That's the idea, and always approaching it, as delivering more than, I ask a lot of favors the end of January, because my Christmas gifts are great. I've already given you, right? I've already, and it's not pay to play. It's just, oh, wow, he's just really so nice and selfless, yeah, well, late January, I'm going to ask you for a favor. I'm
Yeah,
going to ask you
right.
for an intro. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the agreement that I've got, with all of my friends is we'll never make you look bad. Never. Right.
Right.
The person that you connect this to, they're going to thank you for the connection. Right. Because, and that's what kind of ultimately justifies what could be looked at as manipulation. Right. Because it is for good. Yeah, you can use this for evil. Yes. Right. Like Bernie Madoff used it for evil. Yes. But if you're using it to really deliver like fantastic work to a client that you deserve, what is morally, what is morally wrong about that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
So something to give to that is I had heard a story from someone who he put it this way. He bought some people F1 tickets, right?
nice.
And it was like, hey, let's just hang out. Like, you want to come? And some people came and he was like, this is connection to the core to build that goodwill, but it's not at all nefarious. It is not at
No,
all because I'm establishing friendships, and this is
yes,
this is amazing. I want to hang out with these people.
100%.
But it's just connections. And so to get a little bit deeper, is that like what are some other ways in which you would recommend building out that first degree of your network? Other than, would it be like more communication? Do you get people's phone numbers? You check in on
Oh, for
them?
sure. I
What are
mean,
some examples?
again, I had a, I had a unique, first point of contact because it was through watches, right? A lot of my network emailed me, right? They emailed me not as corporate executives, but as a guy interested in a brigade, So that was very different. Of course, when I saw your title below your name and it was, president of whatever, I said, okay, well, this guy is on the list, right? And then, again, keeping in mind, I'm making up numbers here, but I mean, I've only been able to convert, 5, 10% of the remarkable people that I've crossed paths with. It's impossible to convert them all. I mean, but those 5 to 10%, those 15 people, those 50 people, right? Like, remarkably valuable.
Mm.
So yeah. I mean, how do you drum up that connection? Um, I know how some of my peers do it. A lot of my peers, and this is bad advice to give because it presumes that you have the ability to do it, which is not so common. But a lot of my peers do even host phenomenal parties in their home. They'll buy homes not even for personal vanity, but specifically for the purpose of entertaining. Specifically, you know, is that is it unaffordable for it's bad advice because it's very difficult to do,
Mm.
right? It's very difficult to do. That being said, if you do have budget, I would say go with, and it sounds silly, but this is good advice that I got from a contact of mine. Go with really great furnishing over a really great home because people come in and they leave a great home, right? But the 3 hours, the 4 hours that they're in your environment, it's just magic, right?
Mm.
Truly great. Again, this is weird advice because it's so specific, but I know quite a few people that have invested in great interior decorators, and I would say that interior decorators don't even pitch their service that well because they're pitching it as vanity, and I think it's genuinely a functional pitch. It is for the 3 hours you're here, you genuinely think that I'm a magician, like you think that my life is a movie. That's huge,
Mm. Mm.
so that's a big one. Obviously, is it networking through if you're in a metropolitan area, is it networking through a club, right? Is it the New York Athletic Club? Is it the Union League? Is it, how do you become the person that sifts out the important potential relationships and expands your network, right? If it's the New York Athletic Club, I think the dues are $4,000. If you're an entrepreneur in New York, and you're not ready to invest $4,000 in the potential to build the network, then I don't know what to say,
Do you have any strong beliefs on the online versus in-person kind of thing? So like,
Yeah.
should there be do you have strong beliefs that whatever connections you have online need to be converted in person as soon as possible? Is there a blend that needs to
Well,
happen?
I think it's kind of creepy. I mean, I get that a lot. People will DM me all the time, wanting to meet, and I think that's, it doesn't really work. I don't know you. You are asking a favor of me, and you have on the back of no rapport. It's weird. It's like, okay, so how about we just hop on a call? Which is what I'll do with people. I'll say, how about we just, I feel like if you are a fan of the company and you've watched our videos, I owe you the decency of hopping on a call. You've done a lot for me. I owe you 20 minutes, right? But no, I'm not really gonna. No, we're not going to go into the city. We're not having drinks. We're not. We're not opening up to each other. No, and I'm
Mm,
never going to do you a truly large favor. I don't know you.
mm,
Whereas some people, and it's very rare. I could say that I've only ever been on the receiving end of a truly good like network builder one time, and he offered his service for free the first time we spoke, and said, I know you. I literally picked up the phone. I know you are busy. This was in like June or July. I know you are busy. I feel that it was quite lucky that you even answered the DM. I will not keep you on this phone for long. I want you to know I love your company. I really believe in your company. I'd like to be a part of your company. Don't take my word for it. On the next shoot that you've got, please, he lives in Montana. Please let me know. I will come. No bill. I will come. And I said, interesting. To which I replied, well, I don't really need another shooter. What I need is someone that can do a little bit more legwork than that. If you can find a subject that I can pair a brand sponsorship with, then yeah, you got yourself a deal. 1 week later, max, he had a great subject to pair a brand sponsorship with. And I said, that was maybe even better than I did it. I said, that guy
mm.
got it. He just got it. Over deliver, be very short. It's incredibly polite, right? Brevity is polite.
Mm.
Brevity is good manners, and he got me. And now he is a integral, part of my team. He did it for like a big opportunity. But yeah, he could leverage me anytime. He could ask for
Wow.
my network. He could ask for my network almost anytime. He has that much goodwill.
Yeah. Wow. He's
You
incorporated
know
into your stuff now, huh?
what my network is his network.
Right. Yeah. He got
That's
an
interesting.
extension of the branches, right?
He did it, and I didn't teach him how to do it. Right, some people know how to do it, and I think a
Mm,
lot of it comes from like really good upbringing, like really good family. Like I got lucky in that way. Like I'm not this, I didn't write a self-help book. I'm not this like this guy, right? I just come from a really good family where my mom taught me to respect my elders, and you're a child and you're lucky to be at the table. You should be at the kids' table, and stop talking, okay, and listen. Okay. And when you have something truly cool to say, usually it was funny at the time, it wasn't intelligent, then say it, crack your joke. Right. But other than that, shut the fuck up. Because our family didn't get together to listen to you talk. Got it. Fucking Roger. So really, my mom I stole my mom's advice and I give it to young entrepreneurs. Right. Like, so I literally lived that. And the other thing is, it's like money, right? When I started the business, everyone likes to ignore this fact. People make up stories that like my dad funded my business, which is not true. He wishes he did, because then he'd be a partner, you know. But and people make up stories that I was like a rich kid, and it's just not true. I had no money. I started the business with $9,000, and the business was making for the first year like, geez, if we were making averaging out at $3,000 a month, that would be a lot, And the truth is, the first 6 months we made nothing. So you know what I mean? Like it's probably less than $3,000. I'd probably say it was probably $1,500. You know what I mean? Like it was nuts. While I was nervous to invest in certain things, I was never nervous to invest in a relationship. If I knew I knew that I wanted to network. I knew I had no ask. But I knew I wanted to network. And if we're out to dinner, and dinner's expensive, I live in New Jersey, right? We're eating in New York. Dinner for two people, particularly an executive with good taste in wine, dinner's $500 easily, no problem. So did I have $500? Yes, technically I had $500. I did not have much more than $500. Okay, and picking up a check like that is just, and not making a big fucking deal about it. It is completely eradicating any idea that you're the kid that is like another one on their meal ticket ride, right? Because every dude that I know that does well, including myself at this point, everyone's looking for a free meal. Everybody. So picking up those checks, and when they picked up a check, generally 50-50, right? Even and always to the protest of the gentleman, because it takes a real special kind of a weirdo to be 55 and feel comfortable when a 19-year-old's paying for you, right? And if they're smart, and if they're a good person, they're going to object. They're going to say, well, no, this is inappropriate. To which, you don't get nervous. You say, sorry, did I eat? Did I drink? I did, right? Cool. What are you talking about? Right? You're not going to get a fucking Nobel Peace Prize for paying for a fucking meal, But even that very simple gesture, that $500 or that $200, remarkable gesture of good faith and goodwill. I'm not a leech. I'm an independent person that has their own thing going. That I'm happy to be here having a drink with you. It totally lets their guard down. And next time you're going to go to dinner, they're going to be a hell of a lot more likely to say yes. Rather, the next time you try to go to dinner with them, they're not going to say, nah, here's this fucking guy again. He's looking for his free meal. Nope. You're getting a second dinner. And in fact, if you pay for the first one, you're almost guaranteed a second one. Right? Yeah. I'm guaranteed a second opportunity to become friends with you. Right? Yeah. Right. But no one wants to spend money. No one wants to, everyone's got a fucking sob story. Everyone's got so do I. Right? Like, so do I. Right. And the reason I don't right now is because I treated the mentors well.
Yeah, that's good. And just starting out though, you better work hard to get back that $500.
Yeah, right. I mean, the line I would use a lot with these guys would be, do you have any idea what I spent on college? They're like, what? I'm like, I don't even like to think about it, and I got nothing in return. You just gave me more than college in 2 hours, and I'm going to make you pay the bill? I'm going to make you pay the bill? No, that's ridiculous. Not happening. And they're like, dude, oh my God, that's so funny. It's true.
That's sales though.
That's true.
Yeah.
I would say it's like $500. You just gave me 2 hours of your time. I stole it. I robbed it. I robbed your 2 hours.
I love that. I love that so much.
Here they are. They're thinking I'm rich. I'm broke. I'm fucking dead broke. You know what I mean? Like I have $1,100, in my checking account, and everyone thinks I'm a multimillionaire at the time, right? Like, that's what everyone, just patently not true. And if they listened to what I said, they knew that I was always extraordinarily earnest about my lack of success. But what they were hearing and what they were feeling, they just didn't gel. It didn't gel, you know?
Yeah. This isn't like, everyone can take what they want from this, but how willing are you to travel to connect with someone?
Oh my God. I have signed deals that are very important to me now, even now, like years later, that will only happen because I hopped on a plane, not to sign a deal, but to make that connection. Yep. Yeah. I have said on multiple occasions, in the middle of a call, an introductory call, basically, right? You know what? I don't even want to talk about this on the phone, because I'm literally going to be down in your area like Friday. So why don't we just do it then? Really? Why? My buddy's grandma is moving, so we're helping her move. It's bizarre. What are the odds? So you want to do drinks, or you want to do dinner? It's up to you. Whatever you want. Done.
There you go.
You know, yeah, it's done.
Love
Yeah,
that.
it's a total lie, but it's a white lie, right? Like you don't want to start off a relationship with a lie, sure, but if the guy said, if he, if I said, I just want to meet you, the guy'd be like, fucking weird. The fuck is wrong with this guy? What a hardo,
Sure.
What a hardo. Just want to meet you? No, make up an excuse, make up a white lie. Just say you're going to
Sure.
be there. It's less pressure on the guy it's just less everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that those serious deals started that way.
I
It's
get
just
it.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and keep in mind, maybe that was 3 deals, and I did it 10 times. So the rest of them were total duds, like total duds. Like I flew to Chicago for something, a 2-day, like nothing, absolutely no value, a waste of my time. I've wasted my time plenty of times. But so what? It's a net game, right? It's a
Yeah.
net game.
Yeah.
I got time. I'll fly to LA. I hate LA, but I'll fly to LA. Sure, let's do it.
From Jersey. You hate LA, huh?
I hate it so much. It's disgusting.
What
Do you
about
live in
LA?
LA?
No.
No.
But what about like Jersey? Do you love Jersey?
So I'm nostalgic about New Jersey, right? Like
Sure.
New Jersey's where it's my home, So it's nostalgic. New Jersey is not a paradise by any means. If I could be reborn, it probably wouldn't be into New Jersey. But fucking LA, at least it's at least it's nice. LA
Yeah.
is culturally, physically, it's just brutal. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get it. Are you in the upper part of Jersey, closer to New York?
I'm in Westfield, New Jersey, which if you on Netflix, there's a show called The Watcher right now, which is
Okay.
very famous. That's where The Watcher is.
Really? All right. Cool. Yeah, I met my wife out in Delaware, so just south of
There you go.
of Jersey. So yeah.
Nice.
This has been awesome, man. Do you have anything else that you would want to share at all about
No,
this?
I just think behave, selflessly. Don't waste a favor. Don't ask a favor if the best outcome is not that great. I mean, wait, save it. You could build a phenomenal business one day based off of great relationships. That's it. I mean, that's really it.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Christian. Where can people find you and what you do?
Yeah, if you want to just follow me on Instagram, follow me at Christian Zeron. If you run an ad budget, you can definitely find me at lmfnyc.com. You will be a very valued client, but you will not be the largest client that trusts us. We work with tremendous clients all over the world, and I'm excited about all of them. I'm grateful for all of them, and I dedicate as much passion into those projects as I do into a podcast like this, right? Like just you and I just hanging out, talking about how my mother raised me, right? Like this is how I approach everything. It's incredibly methodical. It's clean, and it is with a ultimate desire to over deliver, right? Make the favor justified, right? So yeah, if I was someone with a budget, I'd be saying right now, I just trust that fucking kid. He's nuts, but I fucking trust him. He's so transparent with it. He's so transparent. I can't help but to trust him and hate him, Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Christian.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
My man, thank you.
If you like this video, subscribe. That will make sure that upcoming videos pop up into your feed, because you know how YouTube works. So you want to make sure that this actually pops up, And then the second thing after you subscribe is follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm sharing things that I'm learning, and then who else I'm going to talk to next. So stay tuned for the next video.